I'm Tom Rivers, and I'm running for school board, the District 5 seat. In the school board races, it's nonpartisan, and only members that live in the district can vote in this particular race. So it limits it to people who live in Volano Beach, downtown, Lincolnville, part of the World Golf Village, Davis Shores, all the way down to near the Publix at A1A South. And I'm running for the school board because I have always had a passion for education. Began it before college. I went to the University of Florida and graduated. Actually, before I graduated from college, I was offered a job on a Rank 5 certificate to teach school in Clay County. And I taught for a year. It was a little country school. The community was called Clay Hill. Had the 3rd and the 4th grades in one room. That was the only experience I had like that. After that, I went back to the University of Florida and got my degree and was offered a job in Clay County in educable mentally retarded, and I took it and taught at Clay County High School 1 year. And also taught at Green Cove Springs Elementary 1 year. I always wanted to come to St. Augustine, so I made application over here with Leon Scheimer, who was the Director of Personnel. And Leon offered me a job here, and I came over and taught school at Carolinas the first year. And I taught at a variety of schools. I taught at Carolinas, I taught at Evelyn Hamlin, Ponte Vedra, Palm Valley, and ended up at Orange Street 5th grade center. In those days, the schools were divided up into centers, one for the 5th, one for the 6th, one for the 7th. Then they went to high school. After I got through teaching, my interest in education continued, and there was a vacancy on the school board. I ran for it, and I won, and I've served 4 years. I was chairman from 1983 and 84. So one thing I want to emphasize is that I'm the only candidate in the District 5 race that has had experience as a teacher. I've had experience as a school board member, and I've had experience as a businessman. And all three of those things I think are very necessary ingredients to be able to start the job on the school board running, without having any kind of a learning curve. The system has changed over the years, and I've been attending some school board meetings and reading minutes, trying to update myself on the different schools. And one other thing I'd like to add before I answer questions is that I have a family. I have 5 children, 4 daughters and 1 son. All of them went to St. Augustine High School. After my son graduated, my involvement continued. And that's another thing that I want to emphasize, is that my contact with the school system has been ongoing through the years, because about 8 years ago I started taking exchange students. And I've had them from Germany, Sweden, Slovakia. Last year I had a young man from Austria, and they stay the whole year. They come before school starts and they leave after school ends. So I'm involved with them in their school activities all during the year. On August the 4th, a young man comes from Germany. He's going to be staying with me this year, and he's already been enrolled at St. Augustine High. I'm very grateful for the exchange program that allows these students to come and learn our ways and to help them in English. Okay, that's my opening remarks.
Good. Well, thank you. We're glad you're here. Welcome to the St. Augustine Record. Let's start with a positive note. What do you see as the strengths of the school district?
What do I see as the strengths in the schools?
Strengths of the school district.
Okay, I'm a little hard of hearing.
What do you see as the strengths of the school district?
Strengths of the school district.
Right.
The strengths, I believe, are the instructional staff, the teachers that we have, and I know that since cuts were started in 2008, that over the years, that the one thing that the school board has not had to do, which I'm very pleased about, is cut teachers. I believe the strength is in that, and also I believe the strength is in the school board having the ability to work together as a team. And this is one thing that I try to emphasize when I talk to people, that I can be a team player. It doesn't mean I will always agree with what they want to do, but I can express my views in such a way as to where I can fit in with the group. So I think that the teachers, I think having a school board that cooperates with the superintendent, and the superintendent is another, huge strength in our system here.
Okay, and what do you see as the growth areas? Where does the district need to improve?
Okay, again,
What do you see as the growth areas? Where does the district need to improve?
okay. I think that in talking to the teachers, and I've spoken with them and their association president, I've talked to teachers in different places in the community, and I believe that the one thing that needs to improve is teacher morale. About a lot of that, I'm not saying the teachers are dissatisfied, but I believe that they're inundated with so much paperwork and with the testing that it sometimes is a burden to them, rather than being able to enjoy watch the learning process in their children. There's a lot of extra things that have to be done. So I believe the number one thing that I would want to improve would be the teacher morale. And one way I think I can do that, having been a teacher, talking to a teacher, I think I can understand a little bit better. I want them to know they can talk to me so that I can carry what they feel like, to the board or to the appropriate administrator.
You think you could talk with teachers in a way that they would understand, or you'd be compassionate? I'm not sure I get your point.
Well, I think that, yes, I think I could talk to them in a way that they would understand. I think that they could talk to me in a way that I would understand. Maybe too early to bring this up, but one of the things that I point out is a handout I brought. Your copy is over there. One thing that I did do when I was on the school board before is I actually went into the school 2 days every single month. It was not an original idea. I got the idea from Governor Bob Graham, who did work days. So I incorporated that into my school board membership, and actually did go into schools. I went to Carolinas. I spend a day. I go in when the school starts, and I don't do anything other than assist the teacher, help. You call it a volunteer. I'm not there to tell them what to do. I'm there to observe and to feel like I'm part of the system. And that's one of the things that I want to do beginning in November.
Okay, the school district, as you know, faces considerable financial challenges, and one of which is that they're spending down their reserves. And Superintendent Joyner has said that they can't keep this up. Eventually, it's going to be very tough decisions, which include the reduction of staff. And that's a decision, that's a policy decision that the school board would make. What are the guidelines, what is the guidance that you would give the administration on how to cut expenses?
I think you'd have to look at the recommendations by the administration. One of the advantages of the school board, the school system, is you have an administration that can examine the budget and look at where they believe that spending can be cut. Again, I would fight very much against any teacher cuts, perhaps by attrition, but you're going to still have to maintain your class sizes. So I think that I would listen, first of all, to the recommendation of administration, then form my ideas, and then the school board would have to vote as a whole on whatever the outcome would be. But I think that getting into the schools and observing what's happening would also be a way for me to see if there are any, I don't want to say programs, because one thing we don't want to cut, but if there were any of the operating expenses of the school that could be cut. They, according to the superintendent, we have about 2 more years before the reserves are exhausted. And one thing that we need to do is to lobby very, very heavily for more money from the governor or for more money from the legislature. The thing that's hurt us is the unfunded mandates that have come down. There's a whole bunch of them that we ought to lobby for. If the legislature is going to tell the school system to do something, they ought to find a way to fund it as well. This has been an argument for years. This is one of the frustrations of Carla Wright, and one reason I think she's not running again.
Well, you're quite correct that that's frustration. Well, let me rephrase the question this way. There are core courses and there are encore courses, art, music, gym, things like that. If they have to cut courses, and the superintendent's made it very clear, eventually they can't keep in this path without cutting instruction, because that's the only thing left to cut. So what would your guidance be? As you know, there's a large group of people who don't want any of the so-called encore courses, theater, dance, music, any of those programs cut. What guidance would you give the superintendent on what instructional programs to cut?
Well, as I said earlier, I don't really want to cut any programs.
I get that, but the financial reality is real. The superintendent has said 2 years, but the superintendent doesn't want to run out of money in 2 years. He's going to start earlier so that he can take that 2 years and maybe stretch it into 3. But still, that makes some tough decisions, and that's what the board's job is to make those tough decisions. The administration gets to make recommendations to you, but you're the guy who has to make the tough decisions. So again, what guidance? I know no one wants to cut, I get that. But if it comes to it, and it appears it is going to come to that, what's the guidance you give them on priorities for cutting instructional programs?
Well, having said that I don't want to cut anything in instruction, it would be very difficult for me to say that I wanted a certain subject to be cut. One of the solutions,
I'm not saying that you wanted it.
I know. One of the solutions may be volunteers. I've talked to the Chamber of Commerce, and I know we have a wealth of knowledge in this community, retirees, people who volunteer to help. If there is a program that the teacher retires, or attrition moves out, then I would like to see them try to keep that program going. Music, art are usually the first to go. And I'm very much against that. If there's any way in the world of keeping those courses, even if it means that I have to go in and volunteer, I'm music background, to go in and volunteer at an elementary school so many hours a week, I would do it. I think there's a lot of people in town that would do that. So I think that would be one thing that I would do, is not cut the program, but if a teacher was retiring or leaving, fill it with a volunteer.
Is that legal?
Oh yeah, I believe it would be legal. That's
So
something we'd have to ask the school board attorney about. I've been a parent volunteer before.
But when you're a parent volunteer, there's a teacher, certified teacher, somebody in charge of those kids. You're an assistant, in essence, to that teacher, but you're not that teacher.
Well, I think that you would have to find volunteers that were educated in that particular field.
Mm-hmm.
That is not an ideal situation. I'm certainly not going to hope that it doesn't come to that. But I mean, if it's a choice between cutting the program or keeping the program going with a volunteer who's qualified, I mean, I'm not certified anymore for teaching because I didn't keep my certification up, but I have the degree and I have the experience where I could be qualified to be a substitute, say, or even a teacher if I wanted to go back and do that. But so I think it could be worked out. It could be arranged to where it would be legal.
Okay, I'll come back, but if I don't break the camera, and I'll come back with other questions. Let me turn it over to Marcia and Margot.
The superintendent has said that as St. Johns County continues to grow, and one reason it grows is because of the schools, that they need a school a year to keep up with the growth. Capital funds have been cut by the state. How do you address that issue of continued growth in schools but no new building funds?
I don't think that people in high office or legislatures can even answer that question right now. I think that the key is going to be something that's in my field, is the real estate market. The real estate market is going to have to start improving so that the property values will go up again, because they're definitely down now. And the county commission, the school board, any taxing authority has been hurt by having less funds. So that's one of the keys, and I don't have an answer to that other than hopefully the market will improve and property values will go up and people will pay more, you know, like they used to. But that doesn't mean that I'm for higher taxes, you know, but it means that that's one of the solutions is for the improvement in property values.
Well, do you realistically expect that to happen within the next 4 years?
I think it's already starting to come up. I've seen that in the real estate business, and the predictions on exactly when that's going to happen, I would say it will improve within the next 4 years.
Okay. We're doing an article on Sunday that said that the number of homes foreclosed the first 6 months of this year almost doubled the number of homes foreclosed in the first 6 months of last year. A sign that is foreclosures are starting to boom again. What foreclosures mean to the real estate market is the prices come down. That means property values come down, tax revenue from this comes down, and one could argue that that's just going to extend the time before that money starts, before tax revenue starts to grow. Which, to underscore what Marcia just said, is that these are tough times. What advice as a school board member would you be giving to the administration on how to get money when the state is not going to give it to fund the construction of new schools?
Well, the money for construction, as you're saying.
That's correct.
Okay, it comes from either, you know, the education department in the state, or it comes from PICO funds. I can see the only solution is lobbying. I don't know, the school board just hired somebody to work with the legislature and I think put a strength in lobbying on the state level, because unless we start getting tax money from St. Johns County, I don't see how that, you know, we can just grab money out of thin air.
Ms. Marshall?
One of the people we've spoken with suggested that a way to bring more money into the schools was to have people donate more and to put, do you think that's realistic? You know, businesses, that sort of thing. Would it work to help if as times get tougher and there's less money?
It helps, yes. There are efforts I know going on right now about volunteering. I'm a member of the Rotary Club, and the last couple of years, what we've done is we've had a school bus come out to our club, and we all bring donations, and other people can bring donations. But I mean, that compared to the millions and millions of dollars that is being lost, it's hard to say. It would take an awful lot to make up. It helps. I think it helps the classroom. It helps those students that can't afford to buy these things, but it's not the solution. The only other solution I can see would be a partnership with the business community. In fact, the Chamber of Commerce has done that a little bit this year. They had a session on leadership, and there was a group of potential leaders in the community. There were a group in the chamber that meet, you know, about once or so a month. But they went into the high schools and taught a class in leadership to ninth graders. And I talked to a couple of teachers that had that experience with the chamber group, and they said that it was very good. So I can see that as helping, you know, the business community.
Let's talk about charter schools. Where do you stand on charter schools and on charter schools getting money for new construction, which took it away from state-supported public schools this past year?
Yeah, it did hurt. They came from the public education PICO, P-E-C-O. And yes, it did hurt. I think what I feel about charter schools, and I've talked to some of the other school board members about this, really doesn't make a whole lot of difference, because there's nothing much the school board can do about it. I didn't like it that the money was taken away. And the two schools that they chartered this year, the Montessori School and St. Paul's, neither one of them have, well, they didn't get the location that they wanted to get. So far that money hasn't really done them any good. Charter schools are, I think they can be very effective. They can be monitored, and just like the public schools are.
The congressional candidates, several of the ones we have interviewed, have talked about eliminating certain departments of the federal government as unnecessary now that standards and other issues have been taken care of. One of those is the Department of Education. What would happen in your mind as a school board member if you did not have the federal Department of Education around? You know,
I don't really think it would make that much difference. I think it should be up to the states anyway.
do you think that money that our taxes would be used to operate the federal, should it come back to us? Should it come back to the state? And how should it be doled back?
Well, probably should come back to the state. If the state is going to be the administrator for this education system in each individual state, then it should come back to the state. Then of course the state would have the some kind of formula, I suppose, to distribute it amongst the counties.
Well, these people assiduously taking notes. Let me ask you this question, an issue you raised about lobbying the legislature. Do you see that as a role of a school board member? I mean, would you be out in Tallahassee bending arms?
What's the last couple of words?
Would you be in Tallahassee bending arms, lobbying?
Oh, sure, I would. I've served the last 8 years on the property. I was on the Property Appraisers Tax Adjustment Board a long time ago, but I served the last 8 years as a commissioner on the St. Augustine Port Waterway and Beach District. And there were times and there were issues. I had to resign to run for this, but there's an issue that's been brewing with the Port Waterway and Beach Commission that can only come to the legislature. And so I have already been dealing with several of our representatives and senators about this particular issue, and I would certainly do it in behalf of the school board. But again, the school board member has no power unless they're acting as a group, and the school board hired this person, I think her last name is Sweeney, to do this. So if there was a need for us to go and lobby anybody or talk to them, yes, I would be the first to volunteer.
As you know, Carla Wright, one of her big concerns is that there's a great divide within the Republican Party within St. Johns County on the view of education, with the school board members, all of whom are Republicans, and the legislative delegation, most of whom are Republicans, going in very different directions. What actions can the school board, or should the school board be taking to get the legislature to move a little bit more in the direction that the school board sees as the issues of the day?
Okay, I'm not so sure I understand the question. For some reason, I have a little trouble understanding all of your words.
Well, I'm sorry.
And it's my hearing, it's not you. It's
The school board, all Republican,
mhm.
they disagree with various degrees of strenuousness over the legislative changes to education.
Hmm.
If you talk to them, they don't agree with the cuts in spending of education. They don't agree with the diversion of funds from public schools to charter schools. They don't agree with the pay for performance model. They think it'll cost too much money and won't work. And legislators from this delegation all think they're wonderful ideas. School board, all Republicans, all think they're terrible ideas. So my question to you is, what actions, as a school board member, can you take to see if you can bring these two very divergent camps in the same political party, get them to come a little bit closer?
Well,
I didn't say the questions were easy.
no, it's just, it took a while, this, put it in the context of what the governor did when he was first elected, and, you know, cut the education, which really hurt us a lot. And then something happened in the next year, and the governor, Republican, you know, put $1 billion some odd dollars back into the budget. So it took, you know, effort from the people. I think one of the questions that I was asked by one of the teachers was, do you think there ought to be more teacher involvement with administrative decisions? And I said, yes, absolutely. I mean, there's not already. And she indicated that they would like to have more involvement. And I think that's one thing that you could do is the teacher, school board working in harmony with the teachers to go to these different factions to try to get them all working together more than they have in the past.
Okay. Marcia? Margaret?
No, I'm okay. Your thoughts on FCAT?
Well, FCAT, I see good and bad. FCAT is slowly being phased out. I think it's 2014, common, I'm losing my voice. There's a common, I can't remember the name of it.
Core standards?
Say-
Core standards?
Yeah, Common Core, the state standards is what they call it. I think that some people leave the word state out. But I've looked at their documents and I'm really excited about it. They're very clear. And it's for every single grade level, and you can go online and take a look at it. And you can see what the teacher is supposed to teach, what concepts they're supposed to teach. And then I think that, you know, once they do this, because with FCAT you had the test, and then you've had people having to sort of teach to the test. With the Common Core standards, you've got the standards, and the teacher then knows exactly what to teach, what standards they are, and they're good. They start with kindergarten, or actually pre-K. And then there will be a test in this one too, but it would be, I think, a lot fairer test. And there'll be less teaching to the test, but more teaching of the standards. So in that aspect, I'm happy. FCAT was kind of like, I feel like a bridge to this. It was something that needed to be done, and there needed to be accountability. And I think that we've accomplished that, and now let's move to the new system.
Okay, I'm done.
No,
Marcia, let's-
we're pretty finished.
Tom? As we said, Ron Davidson would say, you get the last word.
Oh, well, the last word is, excuse me, let me take a drink before I give it.
We got that. School board candidate drinking and during the interview. We got it.
Yeah, some of the questions I find the hardest that you all gave me were the ones about, you know, the how we're going to solve the funding problem. And you know, I just don't think that anyone from the governor on down to a teacher can really determine that. And I do think that the only real answer is going to be the tax base improvement over the years. That's what it's going to have to be. Since we have 2 more years of reserve left, I'll tell you, as a realtor, I'll work real hard to try to get property values back up. I say that tongue in cheek because I really can't do that, but I believe with what I've seen as a realtor is I've handled almost all short sales for the past couple of years. But I've seen that start to change. More arm's length transactions are happening now, so that gives me encouragement to think that there will be a rebound in the market, and that the values of property will go up. Again, I stress my experience, my ability, I think, to be able to talk to teachers, my ability to understand it when they talk to me. I want to know what their concerns are. I want to be an advocate for the teacher. I really don't want to raise taxes. And I feel like I can work as a team player with the other board members to bring about some good things to happen, better things to our school system. We have the #1 school system in the state of Florida, according to FCAT. And I'd like to see it change, see it stay the same or improve as we go over to the Common Core system. And I appreciate you having me here, and I hope you endorse me.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you very much.